Hey, this is Docs, and today I'm just going to do a video about kind of like the different options available to us with our vaping setups. Now, I have a lot of friends that just start vaping, and they have a lot of questions about what should I get, is this a good one, and blah, blah, blah. So this video is going to kind of clear up a lot of stuff on that for the new people. I had a couple friends that actually wanted me to make this one, so here I am. Basically, there are so many options available to us on our setups that for new people, a lot of times it's really difficult to pick out what they need. And the thing is, though, a lot of people are like, well, which one's better? There isn't. There's no better. It depends on what you want to get out of your vape. So first I'm going to talk about the mods. For people who are new to vaping, is the device that holds the battery, not the juice. So you have two different genres, I guess, if you will, of mods available to you. You have your electronic, your VV, VW stuff, and VV stands for variable voltage. This allows you to change the voltage in the mod, which ultimately changes the strength of the vape. So VW stands for variable wattage. Now, only some VV mods can also change the wattage. Usually your more expensive ones. Honestly, in my opinion, this is where, in my opinion, it is better to go with a certain thing. If you're going to go VV, my recommendation is go with something that can change watts as well. The reason being is the watts is the power. So if you have a VV device and you put an atomizer at some resistance, like X resistance, let's say that, you change it to a voltage that you like on that, awesome. But then you put a new atomizer on it, or you change the coil, and it's a different resistance, you have to change that voltage. With the wattage, you set it and forget it, pretty much, for whatever you like. It's also really good for people, I know a few people that like to change their vape during the day, maybe a weaker one in the morning and a stronger one during the day, or vice versa. So it's really good for that as well. You can just change the strength, pretty much. And this is an example of a VV device. This is the Tesla, and it's pretty good. I use it sometimes. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. You have so many VVVW devices, and a lot of them are really good. The second genre, if you will, of mods is mechanical. Mechanical is pretty much what the name says. It makes contact with the battery, and you have your circuit. No electronics to it. This is an example of a mechanical mod. This is the Sigeli Chiu clone. And so, I mean, the mechanicals are really simple to operate, but they don't have a lot of the flexibility that VV and VW mods do. But they have their benefits, and we'll get to that. So, those are your two different types of mods, really. And my recommendation is, for beginners, definitely get a VV mod. You really want to know what you like to vape at, and if you become like a hobbyist, then you can change. Simple. Your VV mods, typically they run a little bit more expensive as far as ones you're going to find in a shop. Your mechanical mods, they can get up there, but usually you're going to be buying like a clone, which they're usually not that much money. But overall, the difference isn't going to be that big, depending on what you're getting. So then we move on to the actual atomizers, and there are a lot of options there. So the first set of options that I'm going to cover, grouping these together, is your non-rebuildables, your clearomizers like the Pro Tank here, and your cartomizers like the UDCT here. So the benefits to these is ease of use. Definitely good for somebody who just wants the convenience of the vaporizer. Somebody who doesn't really get into it. and just likes to use it. Uh, they're really easy to use. In my use, the Pro Tank was a little bit easier. You have stuff like the Nautilus as well that I have yet to try, but since I've been able to get one, I have not been using non-rebuildables recently. So I can't vouch for them, but I've heard really good things about them. Basically, the the clearomizers and cartomizers, they just come in a small tank. And then you can just take this out and you just change the coil there, like when it burns out. And you buy the coils in packs at stores. Really easy. So it's really good for a beginner vape, definitely. And they're just convenient. I actually still use them sometimes for my like secondary flavors, that like my menthols or something like that, because I don't usually vape a menthol flavor or mint flavors. And of course, if you don't know, mint flavors stay in the tank. They just don't go away. So I don't like to put them in my other rebuildables because I don't have that many because I am poor. But your second big genre of atomizers are your rebuildables. Now these come in 3 different forms. They come in rebuildable tanks that use more of a vacuum pressure. You have the K-Fun and like the Aqua, a bunch of different ones. They come in Genesis or top coil. These are also called bottom coil. I don't have a Genesis to show you. I have one in the mail though, so I've never used a Genesis personally. I went straight to the bottom coil ones. And then you also have your drippers. So, big things on these. These actually require their own explanation. But a good generalization of all 3 of them is you have to build your own coils, hence rebuildables. It sounds kind of daunting. It really isn't that bad. Pretty good to experiment with. The benefits of your rebuildables is you're going to get a much better performance out of your vaporizer. Yeah, it's going to be more finicky because you built your own, and you're going to have to take the time to learn how to build coils, experiment a little bit. It's always fun. But you're going to get a lot more performance. You're going to get a better flavor. You're going to get, bigger clouds. Depends on what you want out of it. So now I'm going to talk about the 3 different rebuildables. Your tank rebuildables, your bottom coil rebuildables, like the K-Fun Light and the Aqua, they're really easy in my experience. Usually single coil, although the Aqua is a dual coil. Basically, they use vacuum pressure to kind of push the juice up into the wick in, the simplest of terms. So they work very similarly to something like a Pro Tank. I mean, they look similar, except bigger. So with the rebuildable tank atomizers, you're getting flavor. That's what they're for. They're for complete, just unadulterated flavor. Depending on what wick you use, you can get even more flavor. They're not going to give you huge clouds. It's just the nature of the beast. So if you want a real good flavor, you might want to look at getting a rebuildable tank. So your second type of tank rebuildable is the Genesis. The Genesis or top coil usually uses a wick that goes down into some juice. You tilt it. It feeds the wick, or feeds the coil. The plus on Genesis atomizers is they are long-lasting. Because usually, not always, but most of the builds are going to use something like a stainless steel mesh or stainless steel rope. So they tend to last a lot longer than your K-Fun builds. Usually K-Fun you're building with cotton, but you can build a Genesis with cotton too, so it's whatever. Um, and then your third type of rebuildable is your dripper. Now the drippers, they are really, you really gonna get some clouds out of these. These are what, you see the people going around just blowing out clouds bigger than you are. They're probably using a dripper, more than likely. So these, they're pretty easy. Usually you see them in dual coil setups, although you can do 4 if you want. These don't have a tank, so you just have the coil and some wick there. And it's, it's not that hard to build. A little bit of manual dexterity, that's about it. And you drip juice onto the wick. And then you vape. Pretty easy. The only problem with the drippers, in my view, is the act of dripping. I mean, hard to do it when you're preoccupied doing something else like driving, or maybe you don't have your juice on you or something like that. Also, it's not the most discreet thing in the world because you're going to be blowing some big clouds. Now, with the whole act of dripping, that did maybe change with the release of the 3D dripper by Atmo Mechani. I actually have one on order, and I will be doing a review on it probably maybe later today or tomorrow. It's in the mail right now. It should get here today, actually. So look out for that, and we'll see if that changed. So with those 3 rebuildables, you're also going to run into a lower cost for maintenance. Now, your Pro Tank coils and your UDCT cartomizers, they run, $1 or $2 per coil usually at a shop. You can get them a little bit cheaper online usually. And these coils, they don't really last long. I mean, longest I personally have seen like a Pro Tank coil last is 2 weeks. And that may seem like a long time, but it really kind of adds up. Now with your rebuildables, you have to change, like on my K-Fun I have a cotton build. Now I have to change the wick quite often, but it's cotton, real cheap. I buy a bag of cotton balls, I can make like, 10 wicks out of a single cotton ball. That's cheap. Kanthal wire, not that expensive if you buy it online. Now if you keep on buying like small pieces from a shop, yes, you're going to be spending a lot of money. But if you just buy a big spool of it online, I mean, I paid $5 for 100 feet of it. That's going to last me a very, very long time, unless I lose it, which is an option. So you're going to be spending a lot less. You're going to be spending more time on it, but you're going to be spending a lot less. And once you get good at making coils, it's going to go really quick. And the cool thing about it is you can change the wick without changing the coil. Just pull the wick out, put a new wick in, and you still got your coil on there. You don't have to redo the coil as often as you do the wick. So it runs a lot cheaper. But conversely, once you start getting into the rebuildables, most people kind of become hobbyists and then just spend the money on getting everything. So I'm not going to really go into like what brands of mods and atomizers are the best, because that's pretty subjective. Maybe there are some bad ones that just are universally bad, but it is all about how you want the vape. If you want an airy vape, get an Aqua. If you want a little tighter draw, more closer to the Pro Tank, get a K-Fun. Also depends how you vape. I mean, if you don't like going direct long hit, kind of like a hookah, don't get a dripper, because usually they have a much airier vape on them, much airier. There are some adjustable ones though, so you can tighten them up. It's just most people do drill them out. I have my W4 here is drilled out to 3/32, so I got to go direct along on this one. But it really just depends on what you want out of it. Now, a lot of people have multiple builds, like I do, and probably more than I do. So, why have more? Well, I've actually been asked this. It's like, why do you want another one? So, it's really about how I want the vape during that time. So, if I want to do the way I have this set up is my K-Fun. It's kind of like my all-day just vape around thing. I have a tobacco flavor in there. I have it on a little bit tighter draw, so I go from mouth to lung. And this is kind of replacing my cigarettes. This is the main thing that replaces the cigarettes. And then sometimes I like to have some menthol, and so I put in my BV device with the ProTank or the UDCT. Sometimes I just like to sit there and blow out clouds and have a little bit of fruity flavor or something like that, and that's what I use my dripper for. So I have my 3 main setups, and I'm getting more. Getting a lot more. And it's really just about what you want at that time. And that's why a lot of people have multiples. And then you have the hobbyists, which have tons. And I'm getting there, but we'll see. So pretty much that's the basic gist of the differences between all your different options. So many options out there, but if you are a beginner, I would recommend buying something variable voltage. It's going to give you a really good baseline for what you like. Another thing I forgot to mention, actually, on the rebuildables, when you rebuild a coil, you got to kind of factor in what you like to vape at. Like, say, for instance, you like to vape at X watts on your variable voltage. Well, if you want to get that same kind of vape, and you know your battery is going to be 3.7 volts, you have to build the resistance of your atomizer accordingly. If you want to go even higher, then of course you may give it less resistance and gets a little bit more power. So that's the big thing. That's one reason I definitely recommend variable voltage, variable wattage devices for a beginner. You can pretty much baseline what you like to vape at, so that when you get into rebuildables, you know, kind of like a good starting point. That's what I did personally. I actually went past that starting point quite a lot, but see what I mean. And it gives you an idea. You can kind of mess around a little bit with starting to learn the physics of it, if you don't know the physics already, of circuitry and, you know, your Ohm's law and everything like that. It's kind of a good intro to vaping. Some people stay with it the whole time, though, and that's perfectly fine. That's what they want out of their vape. And a lot of people, you'll go around seeing people saying that mechanical is so much better and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, maybe you're going to get more performance out of it, but it might not be better for their life. And that's the big thing. If you want something just easy, convenient, VV, put a ProTank on it, or a UDCT, or whatever, a Nautilus. Easy. Not going to be spending time with it. Not going to take a long time to change the coil. Simple. Get a few tanks, and then you can have your different flavors all set up and ready for you. Pretty easy. I mean, the rebuildables, a little bit more tinkering to them, but they're also very fun. I mean, it becomes kind of a hobby. You know, what can I do with this coil here? How low resistance can I get if you want to do that? Or, you know, stuff like that. Or maybe I'll try this build here to get more vapor. And there's different builds, different ways to do everything. And that's pretty much the basis. I mean, that's the basics right there. Mechanical, VV, non-rebuildables, rebuildables. That's what you have. I mean, it seems like a lot of options, but there's only a few kind of categories that you really have to pay attention to. And then you get into the brands and the quality of the builds and stuff like that. And so, hope you enjoyed my video. Hope you learned something if you're a new vapor. If you're a veteran vapor, if you learned something, that's awesome too. Alright, thanks for watching and hope to see you again.